This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The courtroom was buzzing with tension. For months, everyone had been talking about Diddy's trial. The allegations were serious, and now famous names were being dragged into the mess. But nobody expected what happened next. The doors opened, and in walked Jay-Z. Not the superstar we see on stage, not the businessman in boardrooms, but a man ready to defend himself. He wore a sharp navy suit and walked straight to the witness stand. No entourage, no cameras flashing, just him. The room went dead silent. People gasped. Even the judge looked surprised. Diddy, sitting at the defendant's table, stared at his former friend like he was seeing a ghost. Jay-Z raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth. His voice was calm, but you could hear the tension underneath. "I want to make it clear," he began. "I came here because staying silent is no longer an option." Those words changed everything. When someone like Jay-Z speaks not as a celebrity, but as a man defending his name, people listen. He didn't start by denying everything. Instead, he gave context, which was even more powerful. "Yes, I was invited to Diddy's events. Yes, I attended some of them. But what I saw and what I was told were two very different things." The courtroom leaned forward. Even Diddy's lawyers looked confused. Was Jay-Z helping their case or destroying it? Jay-Z continued with something nobody expected to hear. "I saw the setups, the NDAs people had to sign, security taking phones away, back rooms with curtains that I never entered. I never signed those papers, but I knew something wasn't right." The prosecution had been building their case around a system, a machine that allegedly used power and control. Now Jay-Z was describing that same machine from the inside. "In this industry," he told the jury, "there are parties, and then there are parties. The ones I started walking away from weren't about fun anymore. They were about power and control." When the prosecutor asked if he ever witnessed anything criminal, Jay-Z paused. "Not directly, but I saw enough to know I shouldn't be there." Jay-Z then told the court about a specific party in 2015. It was supposed to be for Diddy's son Christian's birthday in Miami. "Things got strange," he said. "They had masks, real masks. I saw a man walk past me wearing leather and high heels. Nothing else. People laughed, but I didn't. That man looked scared." Jay-Z said he left early that night. He called his own driver instead of waiting for the scheduled car service. "I didn't want my name attached to whatever that was." Then the prosecution showed a photo. It was blurry but real. Jay-Z and Diddy with other celebrities, including a man in a latex mask kneeling on a velvet pillow. Jay-Z looked at the photo quietly. "I saw that moment. I was told it was performance art. I didn't laugh, and I didn't stay." For the first time, he looked directly at Diddy. "You knew people trusted you. You used that trust." Diddy's jaw dropped. The most damaging part of Jay-Z's testimony came next. He told the court about a private phone call with Diddy in late 2018, right when investigations were starting. "Diddy called me and said, 'They're coming for me. You got to be careful who you stand next to.'" Jay-Z said he asked Diddy directly, "Did you do anything I can't come back from?" Diddy's response, according to Jay-Z, "It's just parties, Jay. Just experiences. Nobody gets hurt unless they want to." Jay-Z's voice cracked slightly. "That was the last real conversation we had. I stopped answering his calls after that." He explained how he began distancing himself, skipping events, pulling out of collaborations, even telling his Roc Nation team to keep their brand away from whatever Diddy was doing. The prosecution then revealed an email from early 2020. Jay-Z's legal team had been warned that NDAs from past events might be used as weapons against people who were present, even if they weren't involved. Jay-Z nodded. "I knew what that meant. They were going to use silence as protection. I wasn't about to get caught behind that." He finished this part of his testimony with words that would make headlines. "He used to be my brother, but now I see who he really was and who I almost became by standing too close." The room was completely silent. As Jay-Z sat forward in the witness chair, his voice became emotional. The weight had shifted. He wasn't just a celebrity in a scandal anymore. He was a husband, a father, and a man defending everything he had built. "I need to speak about my family," he began, looking directly at the jury. Because when my name gets dragged, so does theirs." The room was silent. Even Diddy looked up from his notes. Jay-Z described how the accusations had affected Beyoncé and their children. "Blue Ivy's old enough to read headlines now," he said. "She came to me asking what a freak-off was. That's not something a father should have to explain." He talked about reporters swarming their home, paparazzi camping outside Blue's school, and headlines that mixed truth with lies. "My wife has stood by me through everything. But this was different. This wasn't business drama. This was a nuclear bomb dropped on our family. And the worst part, it was all based on a lie." Jay-Z then addressed the specific claim that he and Beyoncé attended an alleged Miami event in 2015. He reached into a folder and pulled out flight records. "On the night in question, we were in Paris. It was our anniversary. We stayed at Hotel Plaza Athénée. I have the hotel receipt, photographs, video timestamps, and multiple witness accounts. We weren't there." The prosecution reviewed everything. The judge had the dates confirmed. Jay-Z had receipts literally, but he didn't stop there. He called out the culture of gossip and unverified claims that had allowed these rumors to spread. "When did we stop demanding proof?" he asked the room. "When did accusation become conviction?" He emphasized that his reputation wasn't just his own, it was tied to his wife's, his children's, and his entire legacy. "I've spent decades building something clean, something that lifts our community, and in a single headline, that gets smeared. With no evidence." Jay-Z was careful when mentioning Beyoncé. He didn't use her fame for protection. He spoke of her as a mother, a woman blindsided by allegations she had no part in. "I came here to defend truth," he said, "and to make sure no one, not even a billionaire, gets away with burying people in lies." Jay-Z's voice took on a sharper edge as he addressed another major claim, the infamous Miami party at Gloria Estefan's mansion, where he was allegedly seen during one of Diddy's events. "I want to be very clear," Jay-Z began. "I have never in my entire life attended a party at Gloria Estefan's house. Not in Miami, not anywhere." He unfolded several documents, a timeline of his activities from that week, supported by security logs, transportation records, and charity event programs. "On the night of the alleged party, I was in Los Angeles. I was attending a charity dinner hosted by the Sean Carter Foundation at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Here's my speech transcript. Here's the guest list. Here's a photograph with the mayor." The evidence was clear. The court clerk showed the museum's security log, which captured Jay-Z's entrance and exit down to the minute. But the most powerful part wasn't the proof. It was how Jay-Z broke down how these rumors started. "You don't need a lie to be loud," he said. "You just need it to be repeated." He explained that his name had been attached to these rumors not because of any witness, but because he had attended some of Diddy's events in the past. "That's what this has come to. I once went to a brunch, so now I'm responsible for everything this man's accused of." Jay-Z told the jury that the media had spun wildly out of control. "They printed that I was seen in a place I've never been." That one sentence turned into dozens of articles, thousands of tweets, and damage that can't be repaired. His team had prepared a report showing how many news outlets repeated the same false claim. Not one reached out for comment. Not one tried to verify the facts. As the judge acknowledged his records were valid, Jay-Z looked toward the prosecution and said plainly, "If you're going to drag a man into a trial this big, you better have more than gossip and guesses." The final part of Jay-Z's testimony took a darker turn as he addressed the conspiracy theories that had exploded since Diddy's downfall began. He shook his head, glanced at the jury, and said, "I've been called a lot of things in this industry, but Illuminati puppet master, manipulator, murderer by association, that's a new one." He talked about the internet frenzy, how TikTok accounts had posted deep dives connecting him to everyone from Harvey Weinstein to R. Kelly to Jeffrey Epstein. "They say, where there's smoke, there's fire," he said. "But sometimes the smoke is just fog machines and YouTube edits." Jay-Z brought up specific accusations that he was involved in Aaliyah's death, that he helped kill Michael Jackson and Tupac, that he paid people to stay quiet about Diddy's activities. "Not one of these has been backed by a single piece of evidence," he said. But they get repeated because they sell. He then took out a printed Reddit thread one with thousands of upvotes, speculating about his supposed inner circle with Beyoncé and Diddy. He held it up. This is what passes for journalism. Now, Jay-Z explained how the theories had begun affecting real people. I've had family members get followed, business partners backing out, even death threats because someone on the internet connected dots that don't exist. But then he did something unexpected. He admitted that silence may have made it worse. I didn't speak up sooner because I thought the truth would be obvious. But maybe I underestimated how fast lies travel when they come with good production value and scary music. He ended his statement by saying, "I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to listen, to think, to demand proof. Because if we don't draw the line here today, then none of us are safe from what comes next." Jay-Z sat back, his testimony complete. In a courtroom where whispers had become headlines, his voice had just redrawn the battle lines. As Jay-Z finished and the room settled into tense quiet, the lead prosecutor stood up. He was known for shaking even the most polished celebrities. He adjusted his glasses and looked straight at Jay-Z. "Mr. Carter," the prosecutor began, "you say you were never at Gloria Estefan's house. You've provided logs, photos, timestamps. That's all compelling." Jay-Z nodded slowly. "Because it's the truth." But the prosecutor continued, pacing slightly. "You have, by your own admission, attended Diddy-hosted events in the past. High-profile ones, brunches, fundraisers, award parties." "Yes," Jay-Z said carefully. "Public events, industry events, nothing like what's being described here." The prosecutor paused, then leaned in. "Did you ever witness anything inappropriate at any of those events?" Jay-Z hesitated, not for long, but enough for everyone to notice. "No," he said finally. "I saw celebrities networking, music playing, the usual." "And you never saw Cassie Ventura at one of these events? Or any behavior that made you uncomfortable?" Jay-Z's jaw tightened. "Cassie was often present. She was Diddy's partner. But I never saw her in distress, and I certainly never saw the things she's described in her testimony." The prosecutor shifted gears. "So when you hear now what she's claimed about coercion, about abuse, about the so-called freak-offs, you're saying you're completely blindsided." "I'm saying I didn't see it," Jay-Z replied firmly. "And if I had, I wouldn't have stayed quiet." The prosecutor nodded. "That's what Russell Simmons said too." The room gasped. Jay-Z blinked, his poker face breaking for half a second. "Objection!" Jay-Z's attorney shouted. The judge sustained it, but the implication hung in the air. The prosecutor continued, pushing the idea that Jay-Z's closeness to Diddy gave him access to more than just music industry connections. He suggested that Jay-Z knew more than he was, admitting, but without direct evidence, it was all strategy. The jury watched, some skeptical, others sympathetic. Jay-Z's final response before stepping down cut through the tension. "I'm not here to protect Diddy. I'm here to protect my name. And if I was part of that world, if I even suspected it, I wouldn't be testifying. I'd be on trial." As Jay-Z stepped down from the witness stand, he adjusted his suit jacket and briefly glanced toward the gallery where Beyoncé was not seated. But her absence felt present in every stare. He exited through the side door with security, but the courtroom remained buzzing. Murmurs, head shakes, and gasps, some in disbelief, others feeling vindicated. Reporters in the gallery exchanged frantic texts and notes. Social media was already exploding. Headlines flashed: "Jay-Z breaks silence under oath. Jay-Z versus prosecution. Jay-Z defends Beyoncé and family from Diddy ties." There was no waiting for a verdict. The internet had already made one. But inside the room, something more complicated was happening. The jury remained unreadable. One juror, a middle-aged black woman in a beige suit, scribbled steadily in her notepad. Another, a young man with a military haircut, stared at the empty witness chair long after Jay-Z had left it. One spectator, a former Bad Boy Records intern, was caught by the sketch artist wiping tears from her eyes. She told a reporter during recess, "He talked like he didn't know, but we saw him at those events. Maybe he didn't see what we saw, or maybe he just looked away." Cassie Ventura remained stone-faced at her attorney's table. She didn't react during Jay-Z's testimony, But when his voice cracked mentioning Blue Ivy, she briefly looked up, not with empathy, but with a question. Was he protecting his family or protecting himself? Even Diddy, who had been calm throughout the trial, showed signs of stress. He tapped his pen faster. His eyes scanned the room. Jay-Z's words had hit him not as a betrayal but as a signal. The ship was sinking and everyone was trying to find a lifeboat. The judge called a short recess, and as the room emptied into the hallway, voices clashed. Some were Team Jay-Z. He showed receipts. He came clean. What more do you want? Others weren't buying it. He's just saving face. He's been part of the system forever. And in the middle stood the truth. Nobody really knew, but everybody had an opinion. Back at Roc Nation headquarters, the mood was tense. Jay-Z's team had released no official statement after his testimony. His attorney Alex Spiro offered only a brief quote outside the courthouse. Mr. Carter testified truthfully and courageously. We stand by his integrity. But the world wasn't waiting for legal summaries. Within 12 hours, every major outlet from TMZ to the New York Times had analyzed his testimony. Some praised his transparency. Others called it calculated damage control. Beyoncé's name trended globally for 36 hours straight. Her publicist declined to comment. Fans were divided, some fiercely defending her, others questioning how deep the couple's connection to Diddy really went. Meanwhile, the prosecution was regrouping. Jay-Z hadn't destroyed their case, but he had complicated it. He had humanized himself, distanced his family, and redirected the spotlight. But in doing so, he raised another issue: the industry's pattern of looking the other way. The DA's office released a quiet statement. While Mr. Carter's testimony was significant, our investigation remains ongoing and extends beyond any one individual. Translation: this isn't over. And then came the wild card. 50 Cent, never one to stay quiet, posted a photo of Jay-Z on the stand with the caption, "Nice performance, but we ain't forgot them brunches, my guy." It went viral instantly. In the days that followed, other celebrities began to reappear. Alicia Keys reposted a quote about truth cutting through silence. Questlove tweeted cryptic emojis. Even Oprah posted a vague story about rising from ashes. Jay-Z's reputation had taken a hit, but it hadn't collapsed. His testimony, for better or worse, marked a moment where silence was no longer an option. And in a case full of twists, one truth was clear. The courtroom wasn't just trying Diddy, it was trying an entire era of power, proximity, and protection. Jay-Z had survived the stand, but the real trial, the trial of legacy, was just beginning. The aftermath of Jay-Z's testimony created ripple effects that nobody anticipated. Within hours of stepping down from the witness stand, the entertainment industry was in complete chaos. Every major label, every management company, every publicist was scrambling to figure out what this meant for their own clients and their own connections to the ongoing scandal. The first domino to fall was unexpected. 3 days after Jay-Z's testimony, Justin Timberlake's team issued a preemptive statement distancing him from any Diddy-related events. This was followed by similar statements from Usher's camp, then Chris Brown's representatives, then a flood of others. It was as if Jay-Z's willingness to speak had given everyone else permission to run for cover. But not everyone was running. Some were doubling down on their loyalty. Fat Joe posted a lengthy Instagram video defending Diddy and questioning why successful black men were being torn down by the system. The video got millions of views, but also thousands of angry comments. The hip-hop community was splitting into factions, and the lines were being drawn in real time. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, something else was happening. Sources close to the investigation revealed that Jay-Z's testimony had opened new avenues for prosecutors. His detailed descriptions of the systems and setups he witnessed had given investigators specific things to look for. Search warrants were being prepared for properties that Jay-Z had mentioned. Phone records were being subpoenaed for the timeframes he had described. Diddy's legal team was in panic mode. They had expected Jay-Z to either refuse to testify or to provide generic, unhelpful answers. Instead, he had painted a picture of someone who was present enough to see the machinery, but smart enough to stay away from the actual crimes. It was Devastating because it made him credible without making him complicit. The media circus intensified when TMZ obtained exclusive footage of Jay-Z leaving the courthouse. In the video, he walks past a crowd of reporters without saying a word, but his face tells the whole story. He looks exhausted, relieved, but also somehow older. The weight of what he had just done, carrying years of industry secrets into a federal courtroom, was written across his features. Social media became a battleground. The hashtag #JayzTruth started trending, with supporters praising his courage to speak out. But #Jayzinu was trending even harder, with critics arguing that his testimony proved he was aware of wrongdoing, but chose to stay silent for years. The debate raged for days, with celebrities, journalists, and regular people taking sides. Beyoncé remained silent through it all, but her silence spoke volumes. Usually active on social media, she posted nothing for a full week after the testimony. When she finally did post, it was a simple black and white photo of her with Jay-Z and their children, with no caption. The message was clear: family first, everything else second. The legal implications continued to unfold. Jay-Z's lawyers confirmed that he had been granted immunity in exchange for his testimony, which explained why he was able to speak so freely about what he had witnessed. This detail, when it leaked to the press, created another firestorm. Critics argued that he had made a deal to save himself while throwing Diddy under the bus. Supporters countered that he was simply telling the truth and shouldn't be punished for someone else's crimes. As the weeks passed, more details emerged about the impact of Jay-Z's testimony on the case. Legal experts on television explained how his account had corroborated key elements of other witnesses' testimonies, particularly Cassie Ventura's. Where there had been questions about whether her experiences were isolated incidents, Jay-Z's descriptions of systematic behavior patterns had painted a picture of organized, repeated misconduct. The music industry began to reckon with its own complicity. Editorial pieces appeared in major publications questioning how many people had known, suspected, or deliberately ignored warning signs. Jay-Z's testimony had lifted the lid on a culture of willful blindness, where success and loyalty often trumped moral responsibility. Record sales told their own story. In the week following the testimony, Jay-Z's streaming numbers actually increased by 15%. Diddy's music, predictably, saw a dramatic decline. But more interesting was the pattern among other artists who had been associated with the controversy. Their numbers fluctuated wildly as public opinion shifted day by day. The trial itself continued, but Jay-Z's testimony had become its defining moment. Legal analysts agreed that his willingness to testify had fundamentally changed the case's trajectory. What had begun as a trial focused on specific allegations against Diddy had expanded into an examination of an entire system of power, secrecy, and abuse within the entertainment industry. 3 months later, as the trial neared its conclusion, the full impact of that day in court was still being felt. Jay-Z had gambled everything on transparency, choosing to risk his reputation rather than hide behind silence and legal protection. Whether history would remember him as a hero who spoke truth to power, or as someone who should have spoken up, sooner remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: the day Jay-Z took the stand had changed everything. Not just for him, not just for Diddy, but for an entire industry that could no longer pretend it didn't know what was happening in the shadows.